Hello ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, relatives. I am going to speak to you briefly today about the Larrakia principles. The Larrakia principles are a set of six principles established under the Larrakia Declaration, which have been incorporated into the foundational operating principles of the Queensland Tourism Industry Council in its response to the Year of Indigenous Tourism and the development of the First Nations Tourism Plan. Those principles I'll read to you now. They are, firstly, respect for customary law and LORE law, land and water, traditional knowledge, traditional cultural expressions, cultural heritage that will underpin all tourism decisions. 2. Indigenous culture and land and waters and the land and waters on which it is based will be protected and promoted through well-managed tourism practices and appropriate interpretation. 3. Indigenous peoples will determine the extent and nature of organisational arrangements for their participation in tourism, and that governments and multilateral agencies will support the empowerment of Indigenous peoples. 4. That governments have a duty to consult and accommodate Indigenous peoples before undertaking decisions on public policy and programs designed to foster the development of Indigenous tourism. 5. The tourism industry will respect Indigenous intellectual property rights, culture and traditional practices, the need for sustainable and equitable business partnerships, and the proper care of the environment and communities that support them. And 6. The equitable partnerships between the tourism industry and Indigenous peoples will include the sharing of cultural awareness and skills development which support the well-being of communities and enable enhancement of individual livelihoods. These 6 principles together form the fundamental aspects of a relationship between First Nations people and our tourism operators and government and industry. They make clear that we are the owners of our knowledge, and we are required under our law and custom to protect and maintain those cultural expressions. There is much to be done by government and industry to ensure that these principles form part of the legislative and policy framework that support the Indigenous tourism sector in Queensland and elsewhere throughout Australia. But they form as I say, the fundamental basis for that engagement. I hope you take the time to have a look at the principles yourself. They can be found on the QTIC website under the Year of Indigenous Tourism. Have a think about the content of those principles and how your agency or company might apply those in your everyday business. Thank you.